Alright, now the gear review, let's roll. Hello and welcome to another episode of the HEMA Show. I, like always, am your host Stuart, and this is edited by my Andy. Say hi, Andy. Good man. So, carrying on with our gear reviews, following on from the Feathers Buyer's Guide, we're looking at the next in the instalment. The previous was the Kingston, so now we're looking at the next step up, and my personal favourite, the Regenyei. So, the Regenyei is the one that I fight with, and it is this... Bear with me. Okay, I've actually got it now. So, this is my personal weapon. This is the one that I fight with. This is the one that I enjoyed the most. This is the Regenyei. This is the custom. It is based off of the standard with a few differences to it. But the information from this one is very similar to the standard one. It's just a few little additions to it. So let's roll through it. This is Regenyei. This is the custom. As I said, it is 140 centimeters long. It's incredibly dirty at the moment.
Disgusting!
Because it has been so excessively hot recently that I have not wanted to get out in the heat and polish this thing down because it would just be horrifically sweaty work, so it's disgusting, so apologies. So in total, this is 140 centimeters. Blade length is 105. This is an absolute artillery piece of a longsword. It is so long, it's ridiculous. And the reason for that is I love the tip. I love fighting with the tip. It's nice to be able just to hit first and foremost with the tip and then work in to the cut. So it's a very nice tip-orientated weapon. So 105 blade is 1 centimeter at the tip. Nice little roll tip. I always prefer a roll tip rather than anything else. And then it comes down to the shield here. On the standard, it just goes out and down. Here I've got the Spiky Shield. And what I like about this is it really catches down here. So as you parry on the Forte, it slides down and it catches on this shield. Unlike what I mentioned in the Kingston, where it bounces off and ricochets around, this catches here, so it's really, really nice. This shield is lovely, and it doesn't add that much weight at all. Following down, you have the crossguards, the Quillons. I've got the extended Quillon. It should come to about here normally. I've got an extra 2 centimeters on the end of it. A lot of people say that you shouldn't get the extended Quillons because it gets in the way of the forearm of manipulating the blade. My answer to that would be stop being stupid and learn to move the blade properly. It's not really an issue that I've ever had before, getting caught on the arm, and I move the blade around a lot. It's just about being aware of how long they are and just changing what you do in accordance to it, but it took next to no change, really. So having the longer Quillons, not that much of a drawback that you would traditionally hear, but you just get a huge amount more protection on the hands. I've opted for the rings. Kind of controversial for some people. I love a ring.
Yeah, boy.
If nothing else, it makes me a little bit safer. My job is purely based around my hands. If I break my hands, I can't work, I can't pay the bills. So I've got the rings partly just to make sure that I can carry on working. If I get a big old cut to the hand here and my gloves forever fail or my thumb breaks or anything like that, I want to make sure that I'm completely covered, so I went for the rings. Some people really see rings as cheating, but I think said people are probably just whinging for the sake of whinging. Rings, in my opinion, absolutely fine. Not the be-all and end-all. If you don't want rings, that's absolutely fine. But if you are like myself, if you have a manual job or anything like that, I would not recommend rings highly enough. They just give you that little extra protection. The grip is 35 centimeters long from the top of the grip to the bottom of the pommel. I hold it like this, so I have my index finger and my middle finger around, and I have these 2 fingers off. The reason why I have that, this comes from my fencing days, if I have it up here. So I can manipulate around here, but if I need to, I can come up to really align that tip, so I can seat the pommel in to the palm of my hand here, and I can increase it here, but I can slip down and I can get the maximum amount of leverage. The reason why that works on this sword as opposed to the Kingston is the shape of the Quillon, the pommel. It's not very straight. It kind of curves out rather than to go straight out, which is what the Kingston does. So the Kingston, you flop off. Whereas because this is curved out, it just really catches that finger really, really nicely. So the blade steel, I've informed, is 51 CRV4. Kind of just sound like Rain Man, to be honest. I've no idea what I just said. It's sprung steel. It's good steel. This has lasted me a year of excessively heavy use. Not only competitive fighting, but lessons as well. If you've ever had a lesson or delivered a lesson, you'll know the absolute nightmare that you put your swords through. So this has stood up really, really well. So lovely bit of sprung steel on this. £250 I paid for this with all of the custom on it. Now that price may have varied. I'm not entirely sure at the time of recording. The prices are kind of up and down at the moment, but when I bought it, it was £250. But you could go more expensive. I didn't feel the need to get anything fancy on here. Your hands are covering it most of the time anyway. And if you're anything like me, you're going to get the luckiest strikes in between your hands rather than on your hands when you're not paying attention and you take a crappy parry to the head. So it will get dinged up. Don't be too precious about your grip. That is the Regenyei in essence. My thoughts on the Regenyei. I think the Regenyei is the best feather you can buy. Now, don't get me wrong, it is not the best quality. It is not the most comprehensive. It is not, sometimes it's not even the best build quality, but what you pay for it, you get an incredible product. You get a weapon that, if it does break, and all swords break, remember that, all swords break, you get a product that when it breaks, it's not gonna absolutely break the bank to replace it. This is $250, it'll probably be a little bit more expensive by the time it does go and I've got to replace it. But it does not absolutely kill you. It's not a month's rent to get another sword. This is fairly easily replaceable despite the wait time, which I'll come on to in a moment. So for what you pay, the cost to quality ratio is really, really favourable for you as a customer going to Regenyei. Not the most prime providers, not the most premium, but that ratio for me is just right on there. For me, a sword is a tool. It is a piece of sporting equipment. It is not a model to be displayed on the wall. So maybe if you want something prettier, you may want to stump for something slightly nicer. But if you're like me and a sword is just a means to an end for you to be able to enable your hobby, you can't go far wrong with Regenyei. It's really nice. It's whippy. It loves to disengage, this sword. The balance of it, because I've got this slightly longer blade, the balance is kind of about right. It's just past the shield here. What that does, it means the point of rotation is pretty much around the Quillon, so I can get that point in line and I can really get a tight disengage on it. And what that means is I can engage on one side, flick, take, cut really nicely. It's a rapid weapon. It is really, really long, so I usually get a very nice, very clear first intention. And it is very fast, so it really likes to go. The only downside is it is not the strongest parrying sword. Because it's so light, I tend to find that it is susceptible to a bind. It's pushed against, I kind of have to work around it, go second intention after the bind, or parries do absorb a fair bit because it'll be parry, jonk, and it'll move in here just because it's so light and whippy. So do bear that in mind. But that being said, those are pretty much the only drawbacks. The main drawback of this weapon is user error because I have not been cleaning it and it's starting to pit all over it. But that is the life of a coach. Show me a coach with a shiny sword. But yeah, so that in essence is the Regenyei. Highly rated. If you can spring for it, then I would say this is pretty much where you want to go for your first sword. Obviously the Kingston, if that is your limit, then that's fine. But if you are thinking about getting the Kingston and you're thinking, actually I kind of have a couple of quid spare, it is worth going the extra step to get that massive upgrade for this sword. So, Regenyei. highly, highly, highly recommend it. I love this sword. I love this sword. One extra thing, actually, the grip is a little bit skinny. It does take you a little while to get used to the grip on it, but that's just because I've got big old chonker hands. But I do love that sword. There are many like it, but that is mine. All right, on to the questions. Okay, so today's question comes from somebody called Mike. Sorry, Mike, you didn't leave your last name, so I can't credit you any further than that. But Mike asks, who would you put money on, a fencer or a HEMA fighter? So, I'm assuming, Mike, you mean in a fight. If a fencer and a HEMA practitioner, that's the word I use, were to have a fight, who would I put money on? I'm going to make a couple of leaps of logic. They are same level, or comparable level, and they are using a comparable weapon. So, for example, rapier to epee, saber to saber, even though it's not actually that comparable, foil to spadone or side sword to a certain degree. So getting the pitch as level as possible. Honestly, my money 9 times out of 10 would be on the fencer. Fencers are tighter, I want to say. A little context to that. But fencers generally understand distance a little bit better. There's more places to hide with incorrect distance in HEMA because you've got such a long weapon that if you're a little bit deep, there's still weapon to score with. But with fencing, again, I'm going to go off camera. I'm doing that a lot these days, honestly. So, oh, such a fucking massive cleanup job. So, a fencing weapon. You actually don't have anywhere to hide with a fencing weapon. So, if I strike a little bit deep with my longsword, should be striking with the foible, okay, on the first intention cut at least, somewhere here. If I'm a little bit deep, I can strike here and it's still a hit. But with fencing, pretty much the tip is where you have to strike with. This isn't a hit, this is a hit. I've displayed this loads of times before on this channel, but this means if I'm fencing you and I go and I say I flick off in the cease line, come in for a lunge, if I'm too deep and this is my target, if my sword comes too deep and lands in here, nothing's going to happen. I can't just be like, oh, I'm a little bit deep, but I got the hit anyway, I got away with it. You absolutely have to get it just right to get that hit there. And this is the subtlety that I mean that fencers have the tightness. They absolutely are trained for making the most of their distance. And what they may have a lack of understanding in the versatility of the swords, fencing is very monodirectional, they will absolutely pick up with their tightness of fighting and their sense of distance and their sense of timing. They will absolutely run rings around the average HEMA practitioner. That's not to say that the HEMA person would lose 100% of the time, obviously, but there are more factors favouring the fencer, in my opinion. But Mike, hope that helps, and I'll catch you guys next time. Bye. I need to clean that up, don't I? 8 swords that fell on the floor then. Oh fuck, no, 9. Yeah, 9 swords. Good grief. Alright, well, that's going to go on the B-roll, isn't it?